Welcome tonight, everyone. Before we get started, I think it's important that we just take a moment to acknowledge the traditional land owners across the places in which you're joining us from. From where I'm joining you today, that's the Palawa Pakana people of Lutruwita. We just pay our respects to elders past and present as the knowledge holders and sharers. So as I mentioned, we're going to cover quite a few things today, and hopefully all, if not most of them, will be handy for you. We're going to talk about what student life will look like for your teenager and how they can have success at university in their study. We're going to go through what an alternative entry pathway will look like, preparation courses and accepting your offer. Many students go through different journeys when they come to university, so we're going to try and cover all of those for you. We're really lucky to be joined by Rachel, who is a student with us, who is about to graduate, and she's going to talk about the student experience of relocating from the northwest of Tasmania down to the south to study. We're going to go through the student portal where you get all of your support, and we've got Doug here to talk about student support as well. We're going to go through how students can enroll and the finances that are involved with that. Hopefully that gives you some guidance if you're on the call and you have a teenager who has accepted an offer and is ready for the next stage. And the final thing we're going to go through is some really important upcoming events, physical ones that you can attend to help get some one-on-one support. So for now, I'm going to hand over to Charlie, who is going to carry us forward. Thanks, Charlie.
Great. Thanks, Imogen. So as Imogen said, my name is Charlie. So I work in our TAS Future Students here. I'm based down in Hobart, but we have a team across the south, the north and the northwest. So there's a good chance that your child has already seen one of us in schools or at open day or something like that at the university this year. And our role is to help all students through their decision-making process all the way through to what we're going through now, which is the enrolments and starting university. So a lot of what we do is coaching students through this, but there's a lot of anxiety that parents and students have that as they get to this process and Year 12 is about to finish, that support is going to end. And I guess what we want to chat about today is that support doesn't end, but also what sort of techniques that students, as they become university students, can put in place to maintain, I guess, that support themselves and how to succeed at university. So there's a few dot points here about academic success. So one of the big ones here is to plan your semester ahead. At the start of every semester, each unit that you're enrolled in will provide a unit outline, which will break down who the teaching staff is in that course, what the week-by-week study plans look like, and what your assessments will be. So you can start your semester off really strong by going through that in the first week or even the week before semester starts and get your head around what the learning content will be and what those assessment expectations will be. I know as a student that I always found that was the best way to prepare my semester in advance. And then you can find out who the teaching staff of each of your units will be. So you'll have their contact details if need be as well. So one of the things that we always say is that you should always be, if you need any help or support or you have questions, the teaching staff of your course are there to help you as a student. So getting to know your tutors is really beneficial because if you do need something like an extension or you're really struggling with a concept that you're going through, they're there to help you with that support. But outside of that, the support services that the university offers for all students. And that's something that Doug and I will touch on a little bit later in the presentation, but that is something that is there for all students across the university. Some things to keep in mind. So getting an extension if you need it. So every assessment will have a due date and a due time. And if you're beyond that, if you submit it beyond that date, there may be penalties or if a course is really strict, it might be a fail, but for others, it might be a reduction in your final score. And the later it is submitted, the further that reduction will be. So getting in early, if you know that you're going to be away and you need an extension, have a chat to see if the tutor will allow that extension. But if it's last minute and you're sick or whatever the case may be, as soon as you know you can't meet that deadline, you talk to your tutor, you talk to your unit coordinator and you organise an extension. And as long as it's a reasonable or I don't want to say excuse, a reasonable reason, then there's usually some flexibility there. The flexibility will be determined by the unit and by the teaching staff, of course, but if you need an extension, ask as early as you possibly can, and hopefully it takes the stress off as well if you know you've got a deadline looming that you're not going to meet because of extenuating circumstances, not just because you didn't do the work and haven't got sat down to do your assignment in time, of course. And that is one of the things that university as a whole teaches you, is it's not just the content that you're learning in the course, but it's what makes you successful is the skills you learn around that. It is learning discipline, it is learning time management skills, it is learning prioritization, and those are the major skills that the students who succeed are prioritizing those skills as well as their actual academic learning as well. So it's an overall picture of what makes academic success happen.
Just touching on this too, I think if you're a parent sitting here thinking about how can you support your teen in these dot points, sit down with them, download the course unit outline and work through those assessments and the due dates, and even help map it out on a calendar for them. Even in that first semester, that can be a way that you can really support your teenager to be successful, get them in a good routine, help them to learn how they can really navigate some of these new ways of learning. That's the best way you can sort of teach your children that discipline as well. So if you're thinking of ways you can help support this process, that's the perfect way here.
And Imogen, it's Doug here. And I think one of the other things too is if there's ever any terminology that you're not sure of, like already we're talking about semesters, unit coordinators, sometimes that's a little bit gobbledygook. If you're not sure, ask. There's one email address which I will let everybody know now, and that's student.services@utas.edu.au. If you're not sure what a semester is, or you're not sure what a unit coordinator is, rather than sitting on it and not sure, ask away. Just send an email to UConnect and they'll quickly answer your question. Thanks, Imogen.
Yeah, absolutely, Doug. I'll pass back to Charlie.
Lovely. So yeah, and that's one of those things is UConnect is our current student team, and yeah, they are ready to answer any of those questions that you may have or direct you in the support that you do need in the direction you need to go if that's the case. And one thing to keep in mind, so as we're talking about this discipline and getting to know your subjects, is that generally a full-time student will do 4 units per semester, and a semester is about 13 weeks each, and we have 2 semesters per year mostly. Some courses work in trimesters, or health study periods are a little bit different, but you'll hear the term semester a lot when we're referring to university, and that's just those 2 study periods, those blocks of learning. If a student is full-time, they would generally do 4 subjects per semester, but how each subject is run will be different depending on the needs of those subjects. So we might say unit, we might say subject, that's generally the same term, whatever you're more comfortable with. Everyone will know what you mean depending on which one you say, but you'll hear unit as a term a lot. But how they're run is different. So for example, you might be enrolled as an online student in Hobart, so you will physically be attending classes, but how that is scheduled through the week will vary semester to semester depending on the units you've chosen to enroll in for that semester. So you'll generally have a set of self-directed learning for every single unit that you do. That might be you'll have a lecture quite frequently per unit, which is usually 1 or 2 hours per subject you'll have it set aside to lectures. And that's that traditional learning where you see the teacher at the front and everyone's in the lecture hall and everyone's writing notes and you're being talked at. You can ask questions, but that is the time to be taking notes and to be paying attention and listening and taking notes that you might then go home and revise and make notes on and use to do your study. You would then have maybe online readings that you need to do, which will be set per week, which you're expected to do before you actually attend that hands-on class, which is quite often referred to as tutorial or a tute. And they're smaller classroom settings where there is a tutor that runs that class, and that's where you will deep dive a little bit more into something more specific from that week's content. there will be discussions and debates and those sorts of ways of learning, and it's a lot more speaking one-on-one, and you sort of can get down into the nitty-gritty of that content a little bit more. And then other units might have, especially if we're looking at the sciences in particular, pracs, labs, workshops, and field trips are something that you might come across in those subjects. So you might be in a physical laboratory, you might be in a computer lab, or you might be heading out to a local national park or something like that to do an environmental assessment. So depending on the unit you're choosing, those classes and that class type will vary. And flowing on from that, the assessments will vary as well. So essays are quite common, but there's also quizzes, group projects, presentations. There might be case studies that you do. You might have practical assessments that you have to do, and sometimes examinations at the end of the semester as well. So depending on what you enroll in, every semester is going to look different, because this combination is going to change from what you do. And that's what makes studying at university really dynamic, is that it changes a lot and it's really interactive in the way that you learn. There's a lot of self-directed components there. So with your studying and you're watching your lectures and you're doing your readings, but there's a lot of in-person interaction as well that's going on. So, oh yeah, this one, yeah. So your work-life balance. So because your semester does change, so it'll stay the same for the 13 weeks, and then it'll change again in that next semester when you choose your next set of units. That does mean that your schedule and your calendar is going to change. So what you have as a timetable in semester 1 might be different to semester 2. So learning to juggle that study load with potentially a part-time or a casual job, and then any other commitments that your child might have, like being a carer or sport or volunteering, or even just the things that they enjoy doing, like going to the gym and hikes and stuff like that. You do need to learn to balance that, and that's where it's really great sitting down and having that conversation with your child about, let's look at what the unit outline is asking of you, let's look at what your timetable's saying, and let's try and map out a plan so that you can achieve these things and still stay directed in your university study. But knowing that that means that you have to prioritize the most important commitments. And sometimes that means you have to step back from something. Maybe this semester is very intense and you don't have as much time to do going to the gym or volunteering or whatever the case may be. It's only 13 weeks. You know, you got to sometimes you got to put your head down and get through it. And those are the skills that set you up for success at the end, knowing what to prioritize, and having those conversations are really important. And that's something that I think is really good. I don't know if you'd agree, Imogen, but touching base throughout a semester. How are you going with juggling your workload? How are you doing too much work in your part-time job? Do you need to step back? Do you need some reminders for study? Things like that, especially when students are starting out, can just help them to remember to juggle these workloads, because it can be a juggle, but you get used to the flow of it as well.
And I think too, Charlie, thinking about as a parent, how you can have these check-in conversations with your children as they're going through these processes. So even as a parent, if you're sitting there thinking about, oh my gosh, this is a lot to take in already on the things that my child's going to have to do and go through and think about, and how they balance all these things. As a parent, have a think about how you might do some check-ins throughout the year with your own child to see how they're going with scheduling, or how they're juggling the different types of assessments. Is there some support that they need around different kinds of classrooms that they're doing, such as going out on a workplace field trip, or doing lab work? So do take the time to do those check-ins with them, and that will then help to sort of prioritize their commitments and be able to lean back on you. Sometimes I'm sure you can agree your team won't ask for help, but letting them know that you're there to support them and to help work through some of these questions is important.
And especially if your child is moving away from home as well, they not feel that support is there if they're, you know, in the family home. So touching base, or texts and phone calls, can be really beneficial as a student, just to keep that up. And this is an example of what it might look like to be a university student. So where I was saying that your classes are going to be different every semester, even looking at this example here, you know, you might only have on the Monday the one lecture that you need to attend. So you've got time around that lecture there to do a shift at work or to do some study or work on an assignment. But your Wednesday is going to be a lot busier for this student. They've got more classes to attend. They're going to be on campus more. And this is one of the reasons as well why plenty of university students will do evening shifts in cafes, restaurants, Maccas, stuff like that, is because that gives them more of their daytime to juggle with their study in their university and then do some evening work. But you know, it really depends as well on what your child works best at, how they best focus, and what time of the day, you know, they can sit down and do some work better. And so learning that about yourself as well is something that you start to learn as you go through university, is learning what works best for you and how you can best juggle this sort of thing. But this sort of timetable often excites students who have been used to being at school 9 to 3, Monday to Friday, and suddenly they realize they've got all this free time. I think it's important to note that this isn't all free time, because there is self-directed study in amongst these classes. So keeping that in mind as well. And so if you're only at class on a Wednesday until 3 o'clock and you've got a few hours before your shift starts, you might head to the library and start working on that assignment you know you've got due. So it is that in those gaps between your classes, that's where that discipline and dedication and self-directed learning really comes to its forefront. But there's still time for, you know, relaxation and self-care and fun as well. Go to the next one. Yeah, clubs and societies. So these were noted on the previous slide as well within the timetable. This is an integral part of university life, is clubs and societies. There is a club or society for almost anything that you can think of. It might be, you know, arts students or medical student societies, but then there are clubs for scuba diving and hiking and bushwalking and creative writing and different maybe church groups or sporting clubs, and whatever you can think of, there is generally going to be a club or society that meets that need. And it is a really great way to meet like-minded people. They often run social events throughout the year, or they offer their own study support to students, and especially if students who are moving away from home. I know as a student I was a part of the Arts Society, and I joined the board and got to plan some really exciting events as well. So as well as being a way to do something fun and meet people and have a break from study, it's also a great resume building. So these sorts of opportunities will come up all through a university degree as well. And if you can't find a society that you want to join, you can start your own as well. So there's support throughout the university to help you do that as well, to meet like-minded people. Okay. All right, so this is where I'm going to hand off to Rach, who has a bit to say about her student experience.
Yep, so I've just finished studying my degree. I moved down from Burnie to Hobart 5 years ago, and I've been studying a Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Engineering, graduating in a month. So I think Charlie sort of hit a lot of it on the head, really, the nail on the head, I mean, with a lot of that stuff. So the hardest transition to uni I found, you know, the stuff about the schedule, it's a little bit mental. At the start of the semester, you've got a lot more free time, and then it sort of really ramps up, and you can be quite busy with the major assessments later on. Also, you know, I think it's a bit of a change that it's more self-led, running from high school and college into uni. It's more you're in charge of making sure you get all the work done. You're not constantly in front of the teacher every day, 9 till 3 anymore. And also getting used to all of the things online. I've definitely found that a challenge as well. Making sure you're staying on top of those weekly lecture recordings and you're not binge watching it at the end of the semester. So all just new things to learn once you start uni. So yeah, like I said, I moved from Burnie down to Hobart, which was really great. I had a great time at uni. I moved down to student accommodation in Hobart. I stayed at one of the colleges, sort of like dorm rooms. I think I found the hardest bit was packing my car and driving away from home. But after that, I met so many people and like really settled in down there. You know, living independently was also a challenge. Like that was all new for me, fresh 18-year-old. So learning how to stay on top of cooking all your food and not eating takeaway all the time. Yeah, so would I have preferred to travel to study? I wouldn't have done. Burnie to Hobart, I mean, it's 4 hours, so that would have been pretty tough. But yeah, I think definitely if you can move to study, it's definitely a lot better. You get a more rounded experience. Because, I mean, the main thing is you're there to do your degree, but you're also there, you meet lots of other people studying all sorts of different things, and they sort of share their knowledge with you as well. And like was mentioned before, clubs and societies. I guess that's the whole uni experience. And when I lived at the student accommodation, I sort of had my own little family down there. We lived right next door to each other, so we all got pretty close, and they've now spread out all around the country or all around the world, exchange students, and it's like this little network that I can catch up with wherever I am, whenever I'm there. So yeah. Did I feel prepared to come to uni? I guess I feel like I was as prepared as I could be, but then still sort of unprepared, which I think is normal. It's a pretty big change. So just sort of, I don't know, learning everything as it comes. You sort of settle into it as you do it. So yeah. I couldn't think if I could have done anything differently. I think I wouldn't change it. It was all pretty good, yeah. And yeah, my family. I think the best things my family did to support me. My mum drove down with me and she stayed with me for a few days just to help me settle in and, buy all my pots and pans and everything, which was really helpful, moving out of home. And, they're always a phone call away. That was the other good thing. If you're ever having a bad day, you can always just call them anyway. And also, financial help when I needed it. My family were really good for that. If you've got an extra doctor appointment to pay for that week, it was always good to have that backup, the bank of mum and dad. So yeah, they were all really good things that helped me out. Again, I can't even think of anything that I would have wished I had more help with. That was all exactly what I needed. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the main things.
Right. Do you feel like you were the sort of student who was super organized and super prepared when you moved down? So you had a list of things you had to pack in your car and you knew where you were going to go and park and you knew what you were going to do with your car? Or were you more a plan as you experience student?
I think I might have been more a plan as I go. I knew I had my accommodation. I knew I had a car park permit, so somewhere to go. But packing, I just looked through my room and took everything I wanted to take with me. So yeah, I guess different types of personalities. That's what worked for me. Yeah.
And since we've got parents on the call whose kids might be about to move away from home, how did you feel in terms of the safety and the support that was available to you in your student accommodation? What did you find that people did to make sure that you were welcome or that you felt safe at all times? Did you have people connect in with you to check on you? What was that experience like?
Yeah, really safe. Like I said, I lived in one of the colleges, so I think the clubs and societies were mentioned. There's 2 of them up at the student accommodation, Christ College and John Fisher College, and they were really great. I'm moving in with people that have been studying for a couple of years. They've already been through all of this, so always people you could ask questions and get to help you out if you were a bit unsure about things. And also the student accommodation staff were really good as well. Like you said, checking in, they used to just come and visit you or send you a text and just check in that you're all okay as well. So yeah, really supportive everywhere, really. Yeah.
And
Rachel, it's Doug. Rachel, did you find that there are other students that you could study with within college as well?
Yeah, so we had a common room and we'd all study in there, especially, so I started in 2020, it was all in person at the start and then it changed to all online. So when that happened, we all used to still study together in the common room, on all of our laptops. So yeah, definitely nice to have other people around you that are, going through the same thing. Yeah.
Charlie, was there anything that you could think of that you wanted to add?
I guess the only thing that it sort of reminded me of is we've been talking about how to support your child through that first year of uni, but I think it's important to remember that even though you, as a university student, you get used to it and you get used to how to navigate that schedule and divide your time up, when you move into your second year, having those check-ins and having those conversations and providing that support from a family point of view, I think is still really important. Don't just assume that, oh, they've got it all under control. They probably do, but I think it's good not to continue that as you go through your degree. I know that even, you know, at the end of my degree, I still was calling mum and talking about things. And so I had it figured out. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to, you know, plan my time, but it was still really great to have those check-ins, even as, you know, as a 22-year-old, it's still really valuable having that support throughout the degree, not just in that first semester. Don't know if you would agree, Rach.
I agree. And yeah, I mean, my sister's studying as well, and I think my mum calls a lot, and you know, make sure you're on top of that assignment that's due next week or that kind of thing. And she's in 3rd year now, so you know, it's all still a nice, like, a good help. Yeah. I do got one more thing I thought of as I think as you were talking, Charlie, but I think my advice would definitely be, I think you mentioned talking to your tutors about you know, if you've got any questions on the assignment. I think that's something I didn't learn until like a couple of years in. I sort of thought, you know, they won't want to hear about my specific questions about my assignment, but they definitely do and can help you going down rabbit holes. So yeah, that's definitely good advice. Yeah.
Rachel, it's Doug. I think one of the things that you mentioned there was just the support from your family, even though you were away from them. Um, it's not a bad thing for your family to be aware of the timeframes for your semester, for them to know when assignments are due and a little bit about some of the assignments. Not necessarily the tedious content, because obviously the student becomes the expert in that area, but just so that they know how you're going with that 2,000 word assignment. Look, do you want me to have a bit of a read of it? I'm not necessarily going to understand it, but I can have a read of it and just, you know, see that it makes sense. So sometimes the families, even though they might not be experts in that area, can still be quite a great support to their students when they're studying remotely. Thanks, Imogen.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, like knowing when exams are on, I think sometimes there were parents that would send down frozen meals for the freezer because they know it's about to get mental. So yeah, just all things like that are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so let's have a chat about what happens when you get your offer and those next steps. So this is the really exciting period. So most Year 12 students would have an offer by now if they've applied through the school's recommendation program, which most students do. And the way it works at University of Tasmania is that if you've applied for, let's say, 5 courses and you're eligible for all 5, we'll send them all to you, which is really fantastic. And it lets you keep your options open, but sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. So it is important to understand that you can accept all of those offers that you receive, and that gives you those options of what to enroll in. And for Year 12 students, we would open enrollments for those in about 2 weeks' time after your final results and your ATAR come out. So if you've accepted 5 offers, they'll all be there waiting for you. So or for your child, I should say. And so they've got a little bit of time to think about which one they're going to enroll in. Semester starts in February, so they don't have to enroll from that date on the 18th of December on that day, though they can certainly come and chat to us and have some assistance with that process. They've got some time if they want to think about it, and if they've got elective units in their degree and what to choose. They don't have to do it all alone though. They can access as much support as they need to navigate this brand new process of enrolling. And then with those 5 offers, they might choose to accept all of them. They might know they just want to do their first preference, in which case they can reject all of the others. And, you know, that's never held against them. We just know that you've chosen the one that you want. They can also defer offers as well, which puts your offer on hold for 12 months. So if you applied for the Bachelor of Business for semester 1, 2025, deferring is saying, yes, I would like that, but not quite yet. So we'll just put it on ice and then we'll re-offer it for semester 1 of 2026. So if your child has deferred their offer and you can see in their application under the offers tab that it says deferred, that just means that we will contact them at about this time next year to re-offer them for 2026. But if they only wanted, so that 6-month break, let's say the Bachelor of Business again, and they just wanted to start their study in semester 2, some courses do allow this, in which case you just accept your offer and begin your enrolment with your semester 2 units. It's important to remember that not all courses offer deferrals and not all courses offer a semester 2 intake. Primarily the ones that don't are health courses. So your nursing, your paramedicine, your medicine, the courses around that sphere. If the option to defer does exist for your course, it will be listed there as a response option. If it doesn't, it would just say accept or reject. And so then when you come to do your enrolment, there's more variation again. Sorry, guys, it's not one size fits all with enrolment, because some courses are, all the units are determined. So your first year of engineering, no matter what major you choose, all of the units in that first year are exactly the same, and you start to have a bit more choice from your second year onwards. Something like a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, you select your major, which is what you want to focus on. So within a Bachelor of Science, that might be zoology. Those remaining units are all elective. So that's free choice. So your child could choose a unit. Other science units, they might do a plant science unit or a statistics unit, but then they might also do a unit in marketing and a unit in creative writing. So they can build a lot of flexibility there. And then some courses offer a mix between required units or core units and electives. So depending on the course that they choose to enroll in, how their first year enrollment appears will be a bit different. It sounds really overwhelming, and I understand that it is quite overwhelming for a lot of people going through that process for the first time, but just to reassure everyone that there is oodles and oodles of support available for this process. It's our job to be experts on it, so we can talk you and your child through that. When they first go to do their enrollment, there's also a how-to video. So you can watch that video. If it still doesn't make sense, just come straight to us. So there's a phone, there's an email, and then we also have in-person enrollment sessions, which I'll touch on at the end of the presentation, where you can come in person and get that support. When you're preparing to do your enrollment, you will, or your child will, need a tax file number, and that is for the Commonwealth Assistance Form. That is so that they get the subsidised fees, and if they're an Australian citizen, they can defer it to a HEX help loan if they choose to. So they will need that tax file number or have at least applied for it before they can do their enrolment. And you will also need a USI if they don't already. So that's another thing that that's very easy to create when you're doing it if you don't already have it, but that's your unique student identifier number that's provided by the government. So again, we can help with all of those processes when the time comes.
Charlie, just before we move on, do you want to just go through some of those acronyms just one more time? Because I think we talked about quite a few there. So, so deferring, do you want to just...
So deferring is putting your offer on hold for 12 months. It's if it's allowable for that course.
Perfect. Electives?
So elective is a free choice unit within your degree. So it means that you might be able to take it from within your degree or a subject from another degree, and it all counts towards the overall credit of your degree.
And your USI. Just go back to
USI is your unique student identifier. So that's a government number which links all of your study together. So if you did a Bachelor of Arts and then you did a Bachelor of Arts with honours, on top of that, your USI would continue for that course so that all of your study is together under one number.
Yeah, and it's such an easy application process. If you just Google USI TasGov, it pops straight up, and the page is so simple to do with your child. It'll take you 5 minutes and then you'll have that number once and never have to do it again.
And if they've already done it and can't remember it, I had to get mine the other day, and it is really easy to get it back again. You just have to put in like your phone number and you get it in a text. So you don't have to remember that number, but it will be with you for life, and it's easy to retrieve it if you don't have it on hand.
And because we've used quite a lot of acronyms tonight, I know that can be quite overwhelming in a big long presentation like this. If you jump onto the Parents and Carers webpage, there's a brand new parent and carer guidebook that you can actually download that has a breakdown of all of these acronyms at the back of it, so that when you're having to think about this again, you've got the list there to explain exactly what each one of these things is. So that's on the UTAS parents and carers webpage, and there's a downloadable resource just for you, an entire booklet that's just been launched. And I will send it out to everybody who's listening as well.
So, I mentioned before that most Year 12 students should have their offers by now. Now, no matter whether you come into a course through the school's recommendation program or through the ATAR, you do need to meet the entry requirements to that course. So to help meet those entry requirements for students who either don't meet direct entry or don't feel prepared for that direct entry into university, there's different pathways that we have available to allow you to meet the eventual goal of enrolling in your chosen degree. So for most Year 12 students, the pathway that we would recommend is called the Diploma of University Studies. That's the second dot point there. Diplomas are 1-year program. That's a minimum study time if you're studying full-time. And the Diploma of University Studies, it gives half of the diploma is preparatory units to help you build the skills to succeed at university. So academic writing and research skills and essay writing and all of those sort of integral skills to university. And then the other half of it is units from your chosen degree. So if you're looking at doing a business degree, you would do units from the business degree. So once you've completed your diploma, you've met the entry requirements for the bachelor's degree. You can move directly into it and you would receive credit for those business units that you did. Another option, same length of time, minimum of 1 year, is the university preparation program. That is all preparatory units for those students who just feel that they need a bit more support than what the Diploma of University Studies provides. That's what that UPP does. That's another acronym, but that one, University Preparation Program. So it is really deep dive into all of those academic skills to provide you a year's worth of preparation before moving into your chosen bachelor degree. Another alternate pathway entry is to do another diploma. So not the Diploma of University Studies, but something like a Diploma of Languages, Diploma of Music, Diploma of Arts. So the university does offer a number of diploma programs. So for example, the Diploma of Arts is minimum of 1 year, and it would be 1/3 of the bachelor's degree, if that makes sense, because a Bachelor of Arts is a minimum of 1 year. So you could take that diploma and move it into a bachelor at a later degree, at a later time, as long as that pathway matches up.
So Charlie, you could say that the diploma programs are really, if your child is unsure about committing to a 3-year degree, they're feeling a bit anxious about, really jumping into something that's a long looks like a long pathway. So a diploma program can offer students the opportunity to do the first year of a degree, still exit with an award such as a diploma, but get that taste to make sure it's exactly what they want. And even then, in some cases, if they decide it's not what they want at the end of the year, they can use the 8 units that they've done as credit in some cases to move into a different area. So it does give you some flexibility. It's never wasted time, but it can be a really great option for those teenagers that perhaps are just sitting on the fence about what option they choose. It doesn't work for everything, and you can always come and talk to one of us to make sure that your child's on the right path. And we've got an email address for you at the end of this presentation, which I encourage for you to write down. But that's a really good way of tasting a bachelor degree without the full commitment.
Yeah.
Imogen, it's Doug. And also we're also talking about full-time study. All of the courses that I mentioned tonight, students can also take it as a part-time situation. So they might do the diploma course over 18 months or 2 years. So certainly full-time study doesn't always fit everybody's situations. And that's where talking to future students or talking to the college-based student advisors can assist with that.
So 1 or 2 units is considered part-time study. 3 units or 4 units a semester is considered full-time study. And so even if your child is looking at Centrelink as a way of supporting them financially, 3 units is considered full-time study from in terms of Centrelink. And so that's important to note as well, especially if that's something that's going to support your child through, but they don't think they can manage the full 4.
I was just going to say, you don't have to tell us at the start of your degree what mode you're going to study in. So you might, or your child might start in a full-time study, realize it's too much, or something happens and they need to change their study plan, in which the case, as Doug mentioned, you could make a meeting with a student advisor, talk about your options of reducing down to a part-time load from your second semester or your second year or whatever the case may be, and they would help map out that study for you.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I was going to add too. A lot of my friends, especially in engineering, a lot of people sort of drop down to 3 units, which is still full time, but just gives them a bit of extra time so you can focus on doing that and you're not, repeating it. So it's better to do it if that works better.
Absolutely. Lovely. And so the other, alongside the pathways, is foundation unit. So when your child receives an offer, depending on the course they've applied for, it might come with what's called a condition. So that will be noted in their offer letter that the offer is conditional on them completing Year 12 chemistry or equivalent before they can enroll in their course. So for example, if they've chosen to do marine biology within the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, they might need to do maths and chemistry or physics. If they know, or if they're enrolled in the correct units and they're on pathway to complete those units satisfactorily and everything will be fine, they just shouldn't need to worry about it. What will happen at the end of the year, once we get the results from TASC, our admissions team will tick off those conditions so your child can just immediately enroll into their chosen degree. If they know they haven't done it because they just didn't do physics, or they something's gone wrong and they're not going to complete it by the end of the year, they're not going to get the required mark, then what happens if we'll advise them they need to complete a foundation unit? They can still accept their offer, and that's something I would really encourage. If they're wanting to do that course but they need the foundation unit, the best thing to do is still accept the offer and then enroll in the required foundation unit, which we can help you with. And it just helps you meet that condition of the offer letter. So the most common foundation units, we offer an intensive in January. It will start at the start of January, and it'll be an intensive unit in, let's say, mathematics, so that you can meet that condition before semester starts in February, at the end of February. So it is an intensive session. Otherwise, students can elect to do that foundation unit over a longer study period over semester 1, and then they would have a delayed enrollment into their chosen degree. So if they know they need a foundation unit, they should follow the process. But if they just need to wait for TASC to let us know, we'll advise them if they need it. If not, they'll be good to go and good to enroll straight away. So most common foundation units that we offer are maths, chemistry, and physics. And there is also a programming one, which isn't usually compulsory, but it's optional for students moving into an ICT course with no programming background. Have I missed anything? I think that's all of them, isn't there? Yeah, lovely.
I might just add as well on that, if anyone does have children going to the foundation classes, it's pretty common.
Yeah.
And a lot of them made friends that were going into the same degree as them. So it was actually really good. Like they already had friends in their courses before they went into it. Yeah. Back to you, Charlie. Yeah.
Lovely. So this slide here that we've got is touching on student support that's available for your child once they're at university. So I'm going to hand over to Doug here, who is our resident expert in this area. And I'll let you speak to the amazing support services that we offer.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. And when you say expert, you mean somebody who's worked at university for a long time, because I'm actually going to say that I don't know all the different services, and you shouldn't be expected to know all the different services. I mentioned before, there's an email address for UConnect, student.services@utas.edu.au. If you or your child, if you're not sure about, I've made an offer, I've got an ECAF, I don't know what to do with regard to, send them an email and ask them. One of the other things is, once your child gets the offer, then they will have a UTAS email address. Try and get them to use that email address because that's their primary communications. They might have a Gmail account, they might have a Hotmail account. We will have that on record, but it's their UTAS account that they need to become using a lot. Now I'm an accessibility advisor. I'm actually blind, so I've actually turned my camera off. So I'll talk a little bit about accessibility services, which is disability services. So I work primarily with students with disabilities, students with ongoing mental health conditions, um, and we develop learning access plans. So the one thing I would like to say to any parents out there that if your child does have adjustments, does have an ongoing disability at school or at college, make sure you get all their documentation from the college before you leave because it's a lot easier to have it, and that might include adjustments within task within year 11 and 12, and that way you can then contact accessibility services once you've got your offer, and then we can develop a learning access plan, and the learning access plan will summarize all the different sorts of adjustments and supports that the student needs to have to complete their study. They're still doing the same exams, the same assignments, still going to the same classes, but there will be some adjustments that they have. Imogen's put on their Spearmint. Spearmint is our specialist peer mentoring program for students on the autism spectrum. We do have a growing number of students with autism that are successfully completing university degrees. And similarly, there is an Unlock Your Future program that's being developed within year 11 and 12 within the colleges in southern Tasmania. So again, if there's any of this information that you would like further information, drop a message in the chat or contact future students or accessibility.services@utas.edu.au, and then Rosa can send out relevant information. Counselling, we do have free and confidential counselling at UTAS. We have a variety of psychologists and social workers who are scattered throughout the state and Sydney at our Rozelle campus. Students can meet with them either face to face or over the phone or via Zoom. And as I mentioned, it is free and confidential. And sometimes they will work in tandem with a person if they've got an external counsellor as well. We do have after hours counselling as well. So if somebody is in a crisis situation, then if they do contact the after hours, then they will be triaged appropriately. So certainly it's not just a 9 to 5 type situation. The PASS, the peer assisted student study sessions, now they're actually student study led sessions for some of the larger units, for example, biology of animals. Yeah, it's a very large class, and the guys have already spoken a little bit about how lectures, tutorials, practicals are run, but this is a chance for 10 students to get together with a mentor lead and look at the current assignment. So as I mentioned to our student here tonight, they were living at college, they were able to find themselves a study group. Well, these past sessions are almost instant study groups where you can go along and at your own pace ask questions. Mentioned before student advisors. Now, these student advisors are based within the college, and whether it's health and medicine, whether it's College of Science, they will have expertise in how to put your study plan together. So I think Imogen mentioned that you don't have to lock yourself away, the very first day to say, I'm going to do 3 years of science. You might start off with 1 year of science and then suddenly do a unit of psychology and realize, oh, I really do like psychology instead. And then you might change your degree, and you might need to know how you can change some of those subjects and move over to a different degree. We have experts in the colleges that can sit down with you and map out your study. I think students sometimes feel that they've got to try and know all this themselves, and it is confusing for everybody. So talk to one of the student advisors, and they can also talk to you about things like time management, stress management, and things like that. I've got here learning workshops. Now, again, it's not possible to cover all the different topics, but the student portal, I think we're going to be talking a little bit later on, and that's a really good catch-all of all the different study assistance, mental health, stress management, all those mindfulness, all the different sorts of topics where students can. And certainly we are more Zoom or Teams compatible now. So just being able to sort of link in for a half an hour mindfulness session rather than having to travel to campus and actually doing it face to face is a really good thing. Now, the last thing I just wanted to mention was there is a 24-hour study assistance program called Studiosity, where students can get the draft of their assignments checked, or they can ask for some instant feedback. So again, there are learning skills advisors as well within the different colleges, where students can meet with a learning skills advisor. They can look at the rubric, which is the fancy pants way of saying, how are you expected to do this assignment? And they can assist you in how to get from point A to point B to point C. Now, they're not going to do the assignment for you, but they will help you with all the different tools at your ready. I mentioned before about just getting some extra support from the parents around this room. Like once the student starts at uni, even though you might not be an expert in marine and biological science, blah, 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 you can still have a schedule up on your fridge so you know when the assignments are due, when exams are due, as Rachel mentioned, and you can still be tagging in and saying, look, how are things going? Is there any way I can support? Thanks, Imogen. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks, Doug. I know as a student, I think a lot of these support services don't get utilised as much as they should. I know I waited until my 3rd year to get some help on my procrastination that I was dealing with. And if I'd known that support service was available earlier in my degree, I think I would have knocked that down a lot earlier than I did. So definitely good to get your head around the support systems. Not all of them, of course, but knowing they exist early on, I think is really important. So having that conversation as well with your child can be really beneficial from the get-go, you know, as they're heading off, especially if they're moving out of home, as they're heading off, just to keep that in the back of their mind can be really great, because having that support can make the world of difference, I think, anyway, as a student. So thank you, Doug, for going through those. So each student, when they first receive their logins after they've accepted their offer, will have access to what's called the student portal, which is basically the gateway to everything that you can do within the university. So you do get to access the systems that you do your enrolments through and your study through, but it's also where you access the support. If there's any news or events, they will be posted there, job boards, reminders, tutorials on how to study, accessing your course planner, all sorts of support that you can imagine. Everything's in that student portal. And as students first enter the university, it's where I would recommend they first start, so that they can start at the beginning, and it will take them through those first steps of enrolling. And they can access that directly through the University of Tasmania website. Up the top, there'll be a little login and then student portal, or it's also on the mobile app as well.
I think as parents, it's really, really handy if you want to be super organized. As soon as your child accepts their offer, they actually receive their university login, and they can actually start exploring this student portal early. And so if you think that they're going to need some extra support or need some of these wellbeing services, or even need to start just exploring some of the university systems, you can do that with them as soon as they've accepted their offer. So even now, if you're on the call and your child has accepted but not yet enrolled, you could start this process with them to start getting them comfortable. So feel free to do that. It is a good way to learn together, especially since this is a new system. It also allows you as a parent to have a look at what's available and what services your child can really lean into. So this is what the student portal looks like when you jump onto it. It's really easy to navigate. You'll notice across the top here that you have a support link that you can drop down that then gives you access to all the after hours support, the Career Connect, student jobs on campus if your child wants to work on campus. The accessibility services that Doug spoke about is here as well. All of the peer assisted learning sessions and student advisors are here. which is why I recommend as a parent to really start to have a play with this with your child, because this is something I wish as a student I knew earlier. What's on here even includes a whole suite of modules that you can work through as an individual about how to deal with exam anxiety, how to make friends on campus, how to deal with any trauma that you might experience. All of these small extra modules are available here for your team, and it does provide a safe space as well for them to come and really explore what's available to them. It breaks down their course, and in the community tab, it allows them to connect in with people that are part of their community. So clubs and societies and what's available, events that are coming up, things that they can join in. And there's a lot that happens around campus, so it can be easy to miss things if you're not sort of connecting in with the student portal. The last thing that I just want to mention on here is the Career Connect and the career advisors. We do have a service where we can help students to apply for jobs or seek employment, help them with their resume, help them with cover letters. So we do offer that service if that's something that a student's needing in order to go forward with their study, and to help them to work out what that balance is as well. So definitely connect them in with that if they're starting university and they don't yet have casual employment. There is also a lot on campus, and Rachel is one of our student ambassadors, although she'll be leaving us. And so we hire student ambassadors to represent the university, to talk about their student experience. So your teenager might be a leader within their school, and they're the exact sort of people that we would love to hear from. So definitely reach out about those sorts of experiences. So we have a couple more slides left, and then we're going to answer some of the questions that have come through. So your child is just about to enroll, and they're going to come across what is called a Commonwealth Assistance Form. This is a form that essentially registers your child with the government to let them know that they'll be studying. It means that they'll get their fees subsidised as well, so they won't be paying full fees. The government contributes to their fees. So this is a really important form to know about, and you will need your tax file number. Charlie mentioned that before. You will need your tax file number to fill out this form. It's also really important to note that there's two parts of this form. The first one is letting the government know that you're going to study and what you're studying. But the second part of this form is your HECS form as well. So some of your children might be deciding to defer their fees, and that's absolutely fine. That's called a HECS loan. And I apologise for using another acronym for you to learn tonight. But a HECS scholarship allows students to defer their fees, and essentially they won't start paying that back until they're earning over $54,000. And then the process from there is that small increments will be taken out of their pay each fortnight prior to tax. And it's very small amounts, especially at the 54K. It's almost not noticeable. So sometimes you'll hear it called HECS help loan. Sometimes you'll just hear it called a help loan. It doesn't really matter which one you remember, but just knowing that you can defer those fees. You can also pay them up front as well. But most people choose to defer them, and we can help you to do that. The last part on this slide is just taking you through roughly what each of the different study areas cost per year. So this is if you're studying a full 8 units. This would be the cost that students would either pay up front or defer for each of these areas. So I do encourage you, if this is something that you're worried about or that you need to talk about as a family, to revisit this recording later and just note down the different costs of what what your child is deciding between for courses. Obviously English and will sit in the Bachelor of Arts, and some of these things will sit under different degree names. So if you're confused, you can always reach out to us and sit down and have a one-on-one appointment to talk through what the full cost will be, and we're more than happy to help you to do that, because we know that that's something that's can be quite anxiety inducing for a family.
Imogen, can I just say that sometimes the costs do scare people but can I just say that if your child decides to never want to work full time or never get to that stage, the debt will die with them. Okay. So it doesn't get passed on to anybody else. It doesn't get taken out of your estate. So sometimes people get scared when they see those figures. Please impress upon them that as Imogen said, when you get to earn a certain amount, it was 54,000, I think. 2% of your salary will go towards this. So it's a small amount at that time. Thanks, Imogen.
Yeah, that's right. And I know it's called a HECS help loan. And sometimes when you hear the word loan, it can be quite scary, because we all know that loans accrue quite a lot of interest. But this isn't like that. HECS, when you defer your fees, the only time that you will incur any sort of adjustment in those deferred fees is called an indexation. And so the government once a year will apply an indexation. And I know I'm using strange language. You can actually Google HECS help. It will come up. There's a really great little 30-second video that helps to work through the steps and what all of these words mean. But obviously you've got Centrelink to work through as well. Make sure that if your child is intending to apply for a study Centrelink, that you do that early rather than waiting, because it can take quite a while. You should almost be thinking about starting to apply for that process now, so that when it comes around to next year, you've already got it set up and in place. And obviously we've talked about the fact that study schedules are quite flexible, and each semester you can actually juggle between 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 units. So students can really pick their own load for their study, which means that they can work around their employment. So we do encourage students to try and balance both a work and study load. And it is possible. You just have to make sure that you're sitting down with your child and really setting some clear expectations around, being able to prioritize everything. And that's a really great place to start, is talking about how much things will cost, how they're going to afford those things, how they might afford the pots and pans, and the things like that you need when you move out of home. This email address is a really wonderful one to note down. It means that you'll be able to book a one-on-one appointment with anyone from our team to talk through any nitty-gritty questions that you have. And I know that as the year goes on, and as we come into January and February and uni's about to start, there'll be a lot to do and achieve, and we've spoken about a lot tonight. So pop down the email address, email us anytime. We want to see you. We're happy to Zoom with you if you can't meet us on campus, or we're happy to do a phone call with you. Anything to help you to understand the next processes that your child's going to be going through. But what we do have coming up, and hopefully you're available, is the Know Your Options. This is a time when we're free for one full day. We take one-on-one appointments to help your child move from even acceptance through to enrolment and the next stages. We'll have student advisors there to help students to plan out their study and their enrolment as well. So this is a really wonderful occasion if you're at any of those locations, and you can be on those dates. It's a really great chance to come and speak with us one-on-one. You can just Google Know Your Options UTAS, and you can actually book your own appointment, which will mean you'll have your own time slot to come and speak to us. And I do encourage you to do that, because it is quite a busy day. So we want to make sure that we can spend some designated time with you. Thank you to Rachel, and thank you to Doug as well for chatting with us tonight. I really appreciate it, and I hope that everyone has a great night.